This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, I'm your host, Harry Wilkinson. Welcome to the show. This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is the show in which we look at the days, weeks, and even months events. And since we're headed towards the end of the year, we're going to actually look at the year's events and look at them from a spiritual perspective. Now, what do I mean by a spiritual perspective? Well, I mention this every week, and it bears repeating, which is why I continue to repeat it. When you look at the world, when you look at what's coming across in the media and the news and all of that from a spiritual perspective, what you're really saying is that we are connected as one. We are spiritual beings creating these experiences, and we're creating them for a very good reason, that we're creating them to experience something. We're creating them to have experiences, and then we take those experiences and we grow and expand from them. So much of our reaction to things, so much of our fear of things is based on the concepts of death and loss and there not being enough. And when we remind ourselves that we are enough, we are everything and more, that everything in the world is available to us at any point, then we begin to take the energy back from these things that we have invested so much so-called reality in. And once we take that energy back, we can use it to create more and better worlds and experiences around us. So that's basically the concepts that I talk about on this show. I do it to keep myself focused on that concept. It's certainly sometimes difficult to hold on to that understanding when you're surrounded by the world that seems to be unaware of it. Certainly, we've been taught completely the opposite. And so, when you are retraining yourself to see things in this way, it can be challenging. And so, part of my deal to help me stay on track was to do this show. And I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy the people that I've met along the way, and hope that I will continue to meet more people, and glad to hear that, some people may be getting something significant out of what I'm doing here. So that's something that's heartening for me. All right. Now we're going to talk today, since we're heading into this holiday season, and not just any holiday season, by the way, but on top of just the holidays, we have the looming deadline of December the 21st, when the Mayan calendar is set to end, and apparently the end of the world is going to occur. So we talked quite a bit about that last week, and we talked about the doomsday predictions that have surrounded this, including solar flares, the reversal of the magnetic poles of Earth, which might send us spinning into the abyss. All of these things that we looked at and we found were not valid science at all. So we're going to look at what the Mayans might have meant by the end of the calendar and what their predictions were. And we're going to look at, what value, if any, we can find from that and what it might mean to us from a spiritual perspective. So we'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk about, as I mentioned last week, I certainly believe that as we enter 2013, we are entering a time of change in our consciousness and our awareness of the truth of who and what we really are. And what we're seeing are scientific explorations and validations of ideas that have been around for a very long time, spiritual ideas, that now science is beginning to embrace. And we've been talking about this all year. So I thought, as we get towards the end of the, not just the Mayan calendar, but my calendar as well, it would be a good idea to sort of review these things that I talked about on the show previously and look at really the advancements that are being made all over the world that are bringing us to perhaps a higher level of consciousness in not just our highest selves, but in our material world, if you will, in the hologram that we inhabit here on planet Earth. So, on we go. Now, we're going to talk about first something that's going on in the Middle East. Something that is not anything to do with the bombings or the tough talk or the anger or the attacks, the fear of Al-Qaeda or anything else. Well, it has something to do with that, but it's sort of a defiance of it, if you will. This is a special project in the Middle East called the Sesame Project. And the Sesame Project stands for the Synchrotron Light for Experimental Science and Applications in the Middle East. And what this is, they are building what they call a synchrotron, which is a particle accelerator. Now, you may have heard about particle accelerators in the context of the Large Hadron Collider, which we spent a lot of time on the show discussing. The Large Hadron Collider is in Switzerland, and at the moment has, it would seem, successfully placed the Higgs boson particle, or what they call the God particle. And they've been searching for this Higgs boson particle for decades now. It's the particle that sort of will pull together the new physics. The idea that in quantum physics that has been verified and tested, and that quantum physicists have come to, that our reality is very much what we create when we observe subatomic particles, and that, as I, from the spiritual point of view that I mentioned, that we are literally creating everything around us. Well, physics is coming to that conclusion, and finding the Higgs boson particle is a big part of it, because while quantum physics has found that indeed everything is made up of fluctuating energy and particles, there's been no substantive proof about how that gets pulled together to create the physical world that we see. Well, the Higgs boson particle, the God particle, which is supposed to be suffused through everything and give everything a commonality, is supposed to be that find. That's in a very, very generic layman's terms, because I am by any stretch of the imaginations, quantum physicist or anything else. It's just I've read on this stuff, and I find it fascinating. So my take on it may be very elementary, and I'm sure scientists would have a lot to say about them. But from what I understand, that's bottom line of it. Now, so the Sesame Project is building another particle accelerator called the synchrotron, and it's currently under construction and due to start up in 2015. But what's important about this project is its founding members. Their founding members are Iranian, Israeli, and Palestinian. They are from Bahrain, Cyprus, Egypt, Iran, Israel, Jordan, Pakistan, and the Palestinian Authority, and Turkey. It's a coming together of all of these groups to focus on creating the region's first major international research center. The project continues to go on. It continues to get funded, even though there are governments toppling and an awful lot of unrest in that region. But this is the very reason why they are doing this, besides the scientific aspect of it. These members want to, I guess you can call it somewhat of a symbolic gesture, but they want to show that working together in the region is possible, and that through science we can grow beyond the sort of religious conflicts and come together. And this is why I look at this as a very spiritual thing. These gentlemen, these scientists, through their work, are affirming their connection with each other. They are confirming their oneness with each other and the world. And so this project continues forward. And the hope is that as more, governments become democratic and more uncertainty settles down, that they will get more funding and their project can move forward at a quicker pace than it has been. But for now, it looks like they are still on track for a 2015 debut. So, congratulations to those scientists. I think that is a fantastic way to end the 2012 and look forward to what's ahead. So now, all right, let's get to this Mayan thing. Continue our discussion of that. Now, the Mayan calendar, as we said, it's not all of the Mayan calendars, because the Mayans had many different calendars. This is the Mayan long count calendar. The Mayan long count calendar looks at cycles. And according to Mayan cosmology, there were 5 Mayan cycles of humanity. We are living in the 5th, which is about to end. And in each one of these cycles, the belief is, or was, that the world changes. The old world is brought out of existence, and a new world is brought into being. So that is the basis for, if there is any basis for the belief of this sort of cataclysmic world-ending event on the 21st of December, that's where it comes from. This long count calendar, by the way, just to explain to you that, it pretty much fell into disuse, and basically the Mayans relied mostly on the short count calendar. And again, it was cyclical, but these were, shorter days, closer to our own calendar, closer to our own 360 days kind of thing. But it was definitely preceded by this long count calendar. The Mayans also had a Venus cycle calendar because the Mayans were very skilled astronomers, and they could calculate these cycles pretty well. The great evidence of that is something that's known as the Dresden Codex. And the Dresden Codex, and it's called the Dresden Codex because it happens to be in Dresden, Germany now. It wasn't created in Dresden. It was created, by the ancient Mayas. And the Dresden Codex shows these risings of Venus and these Venus cycles. And it was simply through their observations that they were able to, accurately calculate the cycles of the stars. They were among the first to do so. So the Dresden Codex now, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and then we'll talk about the 5 cycles. The Dresden Codex comes from pre-Columbian Maya. And the Dresden Codex is believed to be a copy of the original text. And basically this Dresden Codex shows the astrological cycles that the Mayan observed, and contains some of these predictions that they have. Now, basically, as I said, there were 5 cycles. And the Mayans' cosmology was that each of these cycles of life on Earth were created by their gods, of which there were 13. And each one was a successive evolution, if you will, onto the next. So the first cycle was the cycle of Earth and animals. That was all there was. There were no human beings. And that apparently didn't work. So that was replaced by the second cycle. And in the second cycle, this is when men appear. And these are men made of mud. Mud, that's right. And these men of mud had no consciousness. They were, from what I can understand of this description, I guess pretty much they're like zombies, just kind of walking around. So they didn't last. Well, each of these cycles, by the way, actually lasts a very long time. They actually last several thousand years. But at the end of each cycle, a new world is created. So at the end of the second cycle, the third cycle, people of wood appeared. And these people of wood were not able to grow or develop, so they perished and were replaced by the people of amber, who were the next step up, but they too were limited in what they could do, and were replaced by the men of corn. Men of corn is us, apparently, and so we are at the end of this cycle of the men of corn. So what kind of men will we turn into? Well, I don't know. As I said, I believe that we're turning into, well, let's just say men of spirit. How about that? Now, the Mayans would have seen climactic events happen that would change their world. And being the astronomers that they were, being the observers of nature that they were, I believe they did understand that there were cycles in which people or things on Earth would change. And I think they kept good records of those things. I can agree that we're probably at a cycle of change. If you look climactically, if you want to just go by the climactic environment, we're certainly seeing climactic changes. We're seeing the loss of the polar ice caps. We're seeing greater and more powerful weather events happening. So most scientists agree that we are in the midst of climate change. So we can say that, these changes are happening. I also believe we're in a change of consciousness, in which we, as I mentioned before, begin to understand more about ourselves than we ever have before, and more about who and what we really are. And we're doing it with the help of science. And one of the things that we talked about this year on the show was the advent of something known as rejuvenation biotechnology. And rejuvenation biotechnology is basically the idea that our cells and our tissues get damaged, and this is what causes aging. And they're damaged by metabolic processes, and that these metabolic processes these damage can be repaired. Cellular damage can be repaired, and by repairing that cellular damage, you can reduce illness, slow down the aging process, and create greater lifespans. And this technology, this research is being led by a researcher by the name of Aubrey de Grey. And his rejuvenation research is groundbreaking in postulating the possibility that we could put an end to aging as we know it. He focuses on regenerative medicine and strategies for repairing the tissue and rejuvenating the human body. And his science is verifiable. His science is fairly good. So far, from what I understand, we haven't had any verification of lengthening of the lifespan yet, but that may take a while to confirm through the scientific process at least. But his work is gaining a lot of momentum and a lot of agreement. There are skeptics, of course, but more and more people are saying that these aging process is something that can be changed, slowed down, maybe even halted. He calls it the pro-aging trance, which is, as he says, the impulsion to leap to embarrassingly unjustified conclusions in order to put the horror of aging out of one's mind. It's a psychological strategy, he says, which people use in order to cope with aging, and rooted in the belief that aging is unchangeable and unavoidable. And so, a lot of what he's saying is that a lot of our views of aging, there's the belief that we're gonna age and die and we can't avoid it, and that prolonging your life just is putting off the inevitable. Which is kind of a standard thing that most people believe. But what he's saying and what he's proving scientifically is that doesn't have to be the case. that the damage that is done in chromosomes and cells and so far and other things can be mitigated, can be changed. And while there's great debate over it, there's also a lot of strong support for it. So as his work continues, I think that we'll find more and more agreement on this idea that, our body is a lot more than we might think it is. So, he's arguing that the understanding between basic scientists and technologists and biologists studying aging and regenerative measures is pretty large right now. And he's hoping to decrease that gap, get more people on board to the understanding that maybe aging is something that isn't as inevitable as we've come to believe. And so that's just one of the many, breakthroughs in science and technology that I think we're in store for. We talked about the Higgs boson, and there's movement towards an understanding of life possibly being on Mars, which we'll talk more about as we talk about the Mars Curiosity probe that's up there now, which is leading scientists to believe that they're on the track of finding evidence of life on Mars. That may take a while, but it seems like we're headed in that direction as well. So I think 2013 and onward is going to be an awful lot about these discoveries and this changing of long-held beliefs of what the world is and what the world isn't. And in that sense, you can definitely say that the world as we know it is about to end. And the new world that we've always known could be is about to begin. And I'll see you on the other side. If you would like more information or keep in touch with me, you can find me on Facebook under the Metaphysical Media page. You can tweet me at HWILKI7361. Or you can find me also on Spreaker.com and download some of my past podcasts. Thanks very much for joining me. See you next week.